Hey, what is up, mortals? It is Bone Loss here with a new video for you. Welcome to part 11 of What If Izuku Got One For All early. I just wanted to greet you guys by saying sit back and relax. You're in for a treat. So we begin. Shigaraki stood with the rest of the group. A bright light shined down on them, but that was the only source of light in the room. Everything else was a black emptiness. 2 green lights could be seen from within the pitch dark. It took some scanning through his memories, but Tomura was able to conclude an educated guess. Wait, that voice. I recognize you from the audio calls with my master. There was no movement beyond the circumference of light surrounding the group. Not even any flow of wind could be felt. However, the slight echo that ran throughout the room made it clear that this room was anything but small. Let's just say from where I'm standing, all I see is a dumb brat that All For One gave too much praise towards. I aim to fix that error. A click of a button could be heard, and the spectacles disappeared into the darkness. What followed was glowing lights in the pods that showed themselves. What was inside was an army of Nomu. Aisle by aisle, there were pods holding all of them stationary in the liquid. Twice was the first to take a look at all that surrounded the band of villains. Wow, what a sight! All these Nomu should be out invading the country! Twice adjusted his personality back to a more controlled state. Who knew there were so many that were in the backlog? Shigaraki started scratching aimlessly at his neck. The situation itself was irritating enough, though the obnoxious rambling of a multi-personality disordered freak wasn't helping either. I demand silence! Twice was shocked but did what was told. Tomura took a breather as the pace at which he was scratching his neck slowered. Anyway, about what you said earlier. Something stupid about praising? Dr. Ujiko's chuckle that followed echoed throughout the entire room. It was unclear where exactly it was emanating from. What I said is exactly what it sounds like. You're not fit to be All For One's successor as a destroyer of pillars. At least not yet, anyway. Now, to answer the Strange One's question. These are Nomus that All For One entrusted me to complete. Today marked the day I have, and that's also why I summoned you all here. You'll find these to be more adequate than what we sent you during your invasion of UA. The business I want to discuss has to do with our late master, his will. He wanted me to transfer all his assets to you. However, I don't really see you as fitting candidates. You may have his quirk, but power doesn't equal worthy leadership. Not with the foundation he's set in stone. Shigaraki began scratching his neck a little faster. It was agitating that this seamless nobody is telling him of his own worthiness. Though, if he speaks true, that he also worked under All For One, perhaps it was worth listening and not blow a casket over spilt curdled milk. The lamp that hovered above the group of imbeciles rattled slightly. After a few seconds, it occurred once again, but with greater violence. A subtle rumble emerged from what lied beyond the darkness of the room. The entire building felt like it was shaking, one footstep at a time before the wall pulled open like a garage door. The silhouette of a giant being stood beyond. Its great eyes glowed within that silhouette. Perhaps you're ready to listen now. Good. If you can defeat All For One's proudest achievement by far, then you can prove to me your worth as the successor to godhood. Shigaraki and the rest of the villains began oozing a black sludge. It spat out from their mouths and eyes, flowing throughout their entire bodies, engulfing them. When the sludge evacuated from their bodies, the next thing that Shigaraki saw was the sunset, followed by trees surrounding him and his allies. Once again, that familiar eruption of vibration rushed through the forest. Step by step, the rumbling grew more intense, and in the distance, trees could be seen falling one by one. Through the stems of logs that sprouted underneath the thick forestry were the pair of the same 2 glowing eyes. The door to Class 1A slid gently to the side. Izuku entered the all-too-familiar room once again, gazing up at all the familiar faces. Class 1A was already present, talking amongst one another, mostly about how their internships went. The voice of 13 made chills go up Izuku's spine. He wasn't expecting her to sneak up on him like that. She got a quick laugh out of it before opening the door the rest of the way. Midoriya scratched the back of his head out of how awkward he felt after the fact. He put one foot into the door before his usual gang approached him with excitement. They all wanted their answers for how things went with Sir Nidai, but before Izuku could explain himself, 13 was already beginning class. Alright, gang, I know you all have had a long week. However, that doesn't mean this is any time to dawdle. You'll have plenty of time to share your experiences after class. Today we will be going over practical rescue training. Once they arrived at Training Ground Gamma with their hero costumes, they observed the scene from the monitor above them. Froppy pressed her finger on her chin, pondering to herself.
Why are we here? Shouldn't we be in the USJ instead?
13 raised her finger to the sky as if to prepare them for a bold reply. Usually, yes. However, we aren't practicing disaster rescue. No, today we will be having a race to rescue the lost citizen. The first team gets in position. Midoriya, Sero, Ida, Ojido, and Ashido are the first ones to go. They get in position. The exercise starts, and Midoriya starts moving around at 10%. It took a bit for his footing to match with the environment of metal pipes. After a few leaps and bounds, eventually he began angling his feet properly. As he raced through the pipelines, Izuku gradually hastened himself. He pushed his limits just barely. He didn't want to further injure himself, but more importantly, he wanted to see his growth with his own eyes. In one fell swoop, he doubled his percentage and kicked off of a pipe. The air pressure bent everything behind him as he launched through the sky, landing right in the middle where 13 was. His landing caused him to skid across the floor. He managed to slow down by shifting his weight as the friction increased between his feet and the platform. His breathing was intense, and his leg was slightly bruised from the blast. The class was astonished by his feat. Nearly an entire section of ground gamma was used as a launch pad for Izuku. What he left behind was destruction for that whole region. 13 and Bakugo, however, didn't share in their astonishment. 13 docked points from Izuku for destroying a portion of the surroundings. It was unclear that he didn't put the architecture of structures in account. This could be considered dangerous for the lost citizen. Say if the building they were trapped in happened to be destroyed at its fundamental roots. Though she was still impressed with the feat regardless, he did arrive first because of it after all. Bakugo, on the other hand, felt that Izuku was out of reach for him. He had yet to consider just how powerful Izuku was during the USJ incident. Even now, with his injuries, he seems stronger. Honey is a free browser add-on available on Google, Opera, Firefox, Safari. If it's a browser, it has Honey. Honey automatically saves you money when you check out on sites like Amazon, Papa John's, Kohl's. Wherever you shop, it's a good chance that Honey can save you money. All you have to do when you're checking out of these major sites is click that little orange button, and it will scan the entire internet and find discount codes just for you. It takes 2 clicks to install Honey. Now, anytime you check out, Honey will scan the entire internet and find coupon codes for you. If there's a coupon code, they will find it. And if there's not a coupon code, you can rest assured that you are getting the best price possible, and there is literally not one available on the internet. If you install Honey right now, you can save like $50 to $100 on your shopping doing nothing. There's literally no reason not to install Honey. It takes 2 clicks, 10 million people use it, 100,000 5-star reviews. Unless you hate money, you should install Honey. Some time passes and the end of June arrives. Classes continued and the usual turmoil that follows with education ebbed and flowed throughout each passing day. All right, class, it's about that time for the final exams for the semester. We have a written and practical exam in line for you all to pass in. The class reacted as individuals, and all this did little more than annoy Aizawa. Eventually, the class quieted down after he told them to be silent. He explained the exam in full, warning them to study hard. The majority of the class listened attentively, preparing themselves for the exams. The day of the entrance exam arrives. The entire class succeeds with a passing grade. The practical occurred immediately after. Immediately, the class donned their hero attire and made their way to the training grounds. What awaited them there was a line of teachers standing before the students heroically. Nezu stood front and center with his paws behind his back. Hello, students of Class 1A. Congratulations on passing the written exams. The practical side has been changed due to a decision made by the Hero Society staff team. Due to the surge of rising villain activity throughout the community, we've made the decision to enhance your training experience as much as possible. Therefore, the practical exams you will be facing us, the teachers. Now, I already know what you're thinking. How a bunch of first years don't stand a chance against pros. Well, you're right. Hence why we've handicapped ourselves with these cuffs we will be handing to you students. If you are able to escape the area or cuff your teacher-villain substitute, you win. Fail to do either, and you will lose. We've also equipped ourselves with special bands that weigh us down. That way you kids will have more flexibility in your escape. The students were assigned their pairs and were sent to the training grounds. Anyone who wasn't currently participating spectated from the camera room. Some students took in the tactics of their fellow students, while others were just simply waiting for their turn. Up next was Midoriya and Sero, their opponent being Midnight. The exam began! Midnight meandered her way to the 2 students, slowly ripping a bit of her outfit, exposing her intoxicating scent. Midoriya pondered for a bit, thinking of a strategy. Meanwhile, Sero stood there waiting on him to come up with a plan. Sero's not the strategist type, just the guy who gets things done when asked of him. Izuku just wanted to clarify with Sero something. Don't take off your helmet under any circumstances. Just want to make sure that you won't do so. That's how she can get you. Zero nodded in agreement. He had a lot of faith riding on Izuku, a lot of trust as well.
Okay, and what is the plan? Knowing you probably came up with about 52 of them already.
Midoriya adjusts his stance to a combat-ready one, preparing himself mentally for what will happen next. Well, there are a few ideas I have in mind, though considering us and who we're up against, my best bet is to split up. You should go for the exit using your tape to maneuver, while I'll keep Midnight at bay. Hopefully if what I'm thinking is correct, then this should go smoothly. Zero followed Izuku's example, preparing for battle as well, setting one foot in front of the other.
Sounds good to me. I'll blitz her, no sweat.
Midoriya springs into action. Midnight at this point has gathered a sizable cloud of aroma surrounding her and the path she's taken so far. Midoriya leaped at Midnight. He lunged his leg forward with great force. Midnight backs up in order to dodge the assault, but the air pressure from his foot sends her cloud away, thinning it out in the atmosphere, too weak to even manifest. It worked! Midnight was a little impressed at first. Regardless, she wasted no time to slash at Midoriya with her whip as an attempt to get Midoriya's mask off. However, he caught it, and it wrapped around his fist. He pulled on the whip, nudging Midnight towards him with great force. Midnight unarmed the whip and flew over to Izuku. She landed behind Izuku in a kneeled-down position. He turned around with a punch aimed towards her. Midnight was more cunning than she let on. She threw a handful of sand at Izuku, the dust cloud blinding him momentarily. It was long enough for Midnight to swiftly knock the mask off and drench him in her fumes. Midoriya held his breath so as not to fall asleep and leapt away to an area where the gas hadn't reached yet. Midoriya takes a second to breathe. Once again, he used his kick to blast away the aroma she was letting off. In this window of time, Izuku lunged straight towards Midnight and went to kick her. But before any further action was dealt, an alarm was heard. Izuku and Zero won the match! Zero stood at the exit and smiled, waving back to Izuku as he thought.
Not sure if that was luck or what, but if it wasn't for his manipulation of airflow, we'd be screwed!
A couple of hours later, Shinso and Bakugo presented themselves to the same facility. Bakugo was wearing the suit he submitted but never got to wear. Shinsu was wearing the UA sports uniform with a strange mask and Aizawa's binding cloth. Aizawa, Nezu, and a couple of other faculty members are waiting for them. Aizawa put on a jaded smile and approached them. I'll be your opponent. Try not to fail if you can avoid it. Thank you all for sticking around, and I hope that you enjoyed. Before you leave, we would just like to let you know that We the Celestials has many other channels for your entertainment and viewing purposes. All the information you'll need is right below here in the description, so feel free to check out all the other incredible projects our team creates. Secondly, on behalf of We the Celestials, I'd like to thank everyone involved in the production of today's awesome content. Their details will be in the description below. That's all for today's video, so goodbye and have a divine day.